podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Welcome to However Podcast, where as much as I wanted to avoid football completely for a couple of weeks for obvious reasons, we couldn't resist another trip down memory lane, and today we have a corker for you. As a player, he played for the likes of Aldershot, Wimbledon and Wrexham, as well as a 3-year stint with fellow Sunderland royalty at York City. And then after hanging up his boots, he became a respected coach, who ended up becoming only the third manager, as well as obviously being the last one to do so to date, to walk a Sunderland side out at Wembley ahead of an FA Cup final. Today we are very pleased to be speaking to none other than Malcolm Crosby. Hello, Malcolm.
Good morning.
Good morning. How's it going?
Very well. Yeah, I managed to get it set up so I can speak to you, which took some doing, but
it's
delighted to be on the web. Yeah,
it's always brilliant when you have a guest and then they pop up and you can hear them and you can see them and everything's working fine and you don't spend half an hour trying to sort stuff out. But thanks very much for your time. Always appreciate it. But without because I did mention kind of recent events, which I really don't want to get into, but you're originally from South Shields, and obviously being kind of quite mixed in South Shields, but I kind of, go reading back and hearing you speak back in the day, it seemed like it was kind of drilled into you to be a red and white from early on.
Yeah, I mean, my father and my brother were Sunderland supporters, so I just followed suit, and I loved my football. I was at school. I think I spent too much time playing football, actually, instead of education. Yep. But, I mean, I was always a Sunderland supporter.
Yeah, well, so when did that kind of start? When did you get dragged along to Roker Park then?
Well, I got dragged along. I was about 8 or 9. My brother used to take me, but unfortunately, my brother passed away when I was nearly 10. And his best mate, he was a Newcastle supporter. So he'd take me to watch Newcastle one week, and then, God bless the fella, he'd then have to suffer taking me to Sunderland the following week. So I used to see both teams, funny enough. Uh-huh. But, I went to Newcastle hoping the opposition would win. And then I went to Sunderland, and I used to love it. We used to go on the Roker end. We weren't in the Fulls, and we used to go on the Roker end. It was a bit more peaceful for me, mate. My brother's mate. Yeah.
It was interesting, actually, because back then a lot of people did alternate weeks, didn't they? A lot of people went to St James one week and Roker Park the next.
Yeah, I mean, look, when you like football, like I did as a kid, it was great to go and watch both teams. But at the end of the day, I was still a Sunderland supporter.
Yeah, that's it. And then obviously you went on, and I mentioned kind of some of the clubs during your playing days. And it's funny because I was looking, and your kind of playing days were for like 12, 13 years or something. And then you had this coaching career that spans 40 years. But do you think a lot of people forget that you were a player?
Well, probably because I wasn't a particularly great player. I spent my playing career in Division 1 and mostly in Division 2, which is what's now the leagues. So, yeah, I mean, people probably wouldn't know much about me as a player. And, when I left South Shields, I didn't even know where Aldershot was. It was a hell of a trek. And I just went on a trial as well. I went on trial and I wasn't invited. I went to make the numbers up because we'd invited 3 from South Shields to go on trial, and they said, "Well, we'll have 4 because two in a hotel room." And well, I got asked, and I got kept on, and the other 3 didn't, which it was weird, really, because they were good players as well. They were better than me.
Yeah. Well, for those kind of whose memories don't stretch back that far, how would you describe yourself as a player?
I was a really fit player. So if you call what people call them now probably a box-to-box midfield player.
Yeah.
I used to score some great goals from long distance. I used to clear the stand quite a bit from long distance. So, occasionally I'd come up with a belter. And if I got to say that a highlight of my career was I scored from the halfway line against Wimbledon against Dave Besant, who was like 6'7" or whatever, and got fouled and got a free kick, and then I just saw him off his line, scored from the halfway line, and every time I see him now, it's great to mention, But no, I was an average player, but I was honest. I was a real grafter, and I enjoyed running. I was not many players enjoy running, but technically they would be better than me.
Did you not remind Dave Besant before that quarter final just to kind of put him off before the game or anything like that?
No, I didn't see him really before the game, but he was a top keeper, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. He was a fantastic keeper.
So it was great to score a goal against him.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like you said, you started out at Aldershot, which you mentioned, and actually you spent kind of just less than kind of 10 years. Yeah, you were there for a long time, and then you moved back up to York City. And this was a year before Denis Smith had come to the club. And I was looking, and he hadn't finished above 17th for 3 seasons before Denis Smith arrived. And then within 2 seasons, they were the first team to break 100 points in a league season. So, I mean, what was your first impressions of Denis Smith? Because obviously you must have known him within the game, being at Stoke City, being this huge figure at Stoke City. But, I mean, what did he bring to York to kind of turn it around like he did?
Well, first of all, he came. I'd only been at the club. I hadn't been there that long at York, and Denis came on loan from Stoke, and he was typical Denis. He was aggressive. He was a winner, but you could see he was coming to the end of his career, and you could see that what his next move was going to be was either a manager or a coach, and I nicknamed him I nicknamed him Metal Mickey because he had that many plates in his knees, his ankles, everything. And I didn't actually nickname him and tell him it. I used to tell the lads. And then eventually Denis, at the end of that season, he became the manager. And the first meeting we had, we were all in the changing room, and he punched his finger to me and he said, "And you don't call me Metal Mickey." Right. Well, once he said that, I thought, I think I better not say it again, as I could be ending up in hospital with a bad injury. So, and then he took over, and the one thing he installed into us, he was a really, really good manager, and his manner with us was great. You think when he was on the pitch, he was so aggressive, but he wasn't with the players. What he installed a belief in us. He used to come in some games and start ripping the opposition's team sheet up and saying, "If you can't beat these," and then he'd throw the paper in the bin, the team sheet. And he installed a confidence in you. And what he also did, he had Viv Busby alongside him, who was fantastic in terms of enthusiasm, and the training was always nice and bright and sharp. Surprisingly, they got the best out of a lot of players at York who hadn't perhaps done a lot, but he brought the players on, and he really improved everybody, and there was a fantastic atmosphere in the team.
Yeah. Well, that atmosphere, because I mean, if you could rattle them off, I mean, because you there's obviously yourself. You've got Roger Jones was there, Viv Busby, like you mentioned, was there, John Byrne, John McPhail, Ricky Sprazier, Marco Gabardini would come later on. But all these players who seem to be at York with them, and you're talking about that atmosphere, but so many of them either followed him or went on to coach and be managers themselves.
Yeah, and that's the one thing about Dennis. You know, he was like he'd do anything to help players. Like with me, I knew when we got promoted, I wasn't going to be in the team much, and Dennis pulled me in and said, "Look, you can go. So if you want to go, you can go. I've got." There was like about 3 or 4 clubs wanted to take me, and I'd been there 4 seasons maybe, and I didn't really want to leave.
Hmm.
So I said, "Look," he said, "if you want, I can give you the youth team job, and you can play for the reserve team and take the reserves." And that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to move again. I'd only moved the once from Aldershot to York. It was the first time a permanent move had come along. And I wanted to stay. And so that's what I did. You know, I more or less finished my career in a way. I still got about 6 or 7 games in Division 1 under Dennis.
Hmm.
But I knew I was coming to the end of my time when he kept dragging me off after about 70 minutes. So, but he was great. He let me get on with the job. He never used to interfere. He'd be helpful. If Busby was the same. So the whole atmosphere in the place was very, very good. And we had some very good players as well. And, you know, when you look at some of the results that we did have, you could see you've got to have decent players to win them sort of games.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially the big kind of cup upsets and things. But I mean, just in terms of that, that move into coaching, from what you've described, was that kind of almost an accident, or was that something you'd always wanted to do?
Well, even when I played for Aldershot, a couple of afternoons a week, I used to go to a private school and do coaching, take the young kids at the private school. So I was interested in working and being a coach. And I knew when my time at York was coming as a player, coming to an end, I knew that if I moved again, I think it was Mansfield wanted to take me, Chesterfield. I'm thinking, I'm going to go there. I'll probably have 1 or 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, then what do I do? And obviously, we had a family and we loved living in York. So the whole thing, he gave me the opportunity to go and coach and still play.
Yeah.
And that's what I did.
Yeah.
And, you know, I loved working with Dennis and Viv. They were great to work with.
Yeah. So you're saying you loved York and you loved working with them, and not long after you ended up in Kuwait in the Middle East coaching. So I mean, how did you suddenly? Because obviously, I mean, that's a big move now. But if you're talking mid to late 80s, that's a huge move.
Well, the reason I left was because then, being tight with money, he offered me. I don't think he even offered me a rise. So I was working with my mate who had a landscape garden business. So I'd gone to my wife's family in Aldershot for a couple of weeks with the kids in the the close season. And I met Bobby Campbell, the ex-Chelsea coach. And he was at Aldershot about a month before I left and went and joined York. So he liked me and he knew me and he said, "Oh, what you doing?" And I said, "Oh, I'm like youth reserve team coach at York." He said, "Oh, I'm just going to Kuwait. I've got a job. Do you want to come and take the under-20s?" Well, the money that I was offered, it was like double of what I was earning. And I sat down with the wife, you know, and we said, "Look, it's mad not to do it because it's such a great opportunity, you know." And I went, and I really enjoyed it. The first season I was working with Bobby Campbell. After 4 months, he got the sack. So it was just before Christmas, and he just obviously got his payoff, and off he went. And while I was there, I was working for a club called Cadsia, and they were going to let me go anyway, but because they wanted to bring a Kuwaiti in to run the team. And then George Armstrong, the ex-Arsenal player, a winger, who's a Geordie. Well, poor George passed away a few years ago. He was taking another club, and then he got this job at Salmia, and he said, "Do you want to come and take the under-20s and the 18s?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll come with you." And we won the league, and the Sheikh offered me a new deal. And then I kept in touch with Den and Viv, and I went to see them when I was back home, and we were living in York still. And then Viv Busby, he opened a pub. I don't know if you remember that. He opened a pub near, I think it was near Spennymoor way. And I was in the pub, and there was directors there and what have you, and I was chatting away to a couple of directors. And then Dennis come up to me, he went, "Oh, you've just had an interview, Cross, for the youth job." I went, "Really?" He went, "Yeah." So anyway, I went back. I went to Sunderland because obviously I was like, God, working for Sunderland.
Yeah.
The money was rubbish, but it didn't matter because, it was a great career move for me. Yeah. And I could have stayed in Kuwait and probably done quite well. But I wanted, once my wife was like, "God, we're going back there. It's half your wage, all this." I'm like, "I know, but let's go." So, it wasn't ideal, but in the end, things turn out well.
Yeah. Because I think you joined, when you joined, it was just after we'd won the third division, I think.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah. And obviously, I think by that point, Denis Smith, because he got us promoted first time, he had his feet under the table a little bit, like he could. And it seemed like then he was sorting out his backroom staff, because I'm not sure at what point Jim Morrow joined the club as well to do some of the youth stuff. But I mean, what did Denis Smith what did he ask of you in terms of the youth team?
Well, Dennis had belief in me, and he would let me get on with the job. And Jim Morrow was already there when I joined.
Right.
And he was fantastic. He was, he brought in people like Mickey Gray, David Rush, who were with, I think Mickey was at Man U and Rushy was at somewhere like Notts County. And Jim, he was brilliant, and he got these players in and said to me, I was the youth coach, "Do you want to have a look at them?" I went, "Of course I will." Looked at them and went, "Bloody hell, we'll have them." Right? And we took them, and, look what happened to the two of them. They did fantastic. And I loved the Sunderland, the Northeast attitude of young players. You very rarely get like a bad attitude. They've got great attitudes, and they just love life, don't they? The Northeast, they love, And so Jim was a big help, and Dennis and Viv were great, and they just let me get on with it in the youth team, and we did quite well. We had some good young players coming through. Brian Atkinson, Kieran Brady. There was some talent, Rushy, and you can rattle names off left, right, and centre. And then Roger Jones came in and had the reserve team. But then eventually we swapped round, and I stepped up and took the reserves.
Yeah.
And talking about earlier when you said what kind of player were you?
Yeah.
Well, I never played against top teams, but I ended up. Dennis said, "I think you could do with playing, and helping these lads." So I ended up playing like at Old Trafford, Anfield, St James's, all these places. And I was playing, and we were winning games, and I was like, "This is great, this," And I did about a season of that, and then I thought, I've got to finish it. I've got to finish sometime, and I never did, because as we'll talk later, I ended up still playing.
Well, I think Roger Jones had a few games in goal as well, didn't he, for the reserves?
I'm not sure if he did or not. I don't think so.
That might be my memory playing tricks on this.
I mean, Roger when he came to York, was a really good keeper.
Yeah.
But I laugh, because I see goalkeepers now, they go out for a warm-up. They're out there about 40 minutes. I think Rog used to be out there about 5. And that was his warm-up. I used to end up in goal. The lads were shooting at me before a game, you know.
Well, that was one extreme. You had John Burridge on the other. He was doing handstands and all sorts, wasn't
Oh,
he?
John Burridge, yeah. Yeah, he was...
But you mentioned like some of the northeast, like the young lads and like, you know, how they are and things like that. But obviously you had the digs for the youth players along the seafront, and we've heard some stories, and we've heard it hints at some that couldn't be shared as well. So, I mean, but how was that for you? Because obviously you were raising your own family there at the same time.
Yeah, it was a difficult one because we were living in York, and I was like traveling from York, and obviously I could stay at my parents' house, you know. But it was a case of we had 3 young kids. We needed to settle down, and instead of us actually moving and selling up, we managed to the lady who ran the hostel. She just did a moonlight flit. She just cleared off, right? And so Dennis again, you know, really like on the ball. He said, "Would you and Carol like to run it?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm not sure about that. Like, I see enough of the players, you know." And my wife was like, "Oh yeah, well, I'll do that. We'll do that." And it was a great idea because you're like, we had this beautiful house opposite the seafront.
Yeah.
You know, the kids were on the beach every day. They were fishing. Some of the young players loved fishing. They'd take me 2 kids, me boys. My daughter didn't go fishing, like, but the 2 boys loved it. And it worked really well, you know. And then I think after the cup final, because we were still living in there when we got the cup final, we decided we needed to like rent a place, you know. But no, it was a great experience, and you know, financially it worked out well as well. So
Yeah.
it was good for us. And again, you know, when you're just walking around the corner and 10 minutes you're at the stadium instead of me travelling from York.
Yeah.
Most days, so it was good. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's famous because, you know, when we've talked to quite a few of the lads who came through at that time, and
Right.
all of them mentioned the digs, all of them mentioned staying there, all of them mentioned, well, some of them mentioned, you know, trying to sneak in at, you know, whatever time in the morning.
Oh yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah. I had a few of them. Well, I won't mention names, but I had 2 or 3, like, and you know, my wife was brilliant in there because she was a good cook and she had help as well. She had like assistants, and they were great. And she used to like knock meals up for them, like left, right, and centre. And the kids enjoyed it. And I never forget, Kevin Ball came when he signed, and he didn't have anywhere to stay. They didn't put him in a hotel for some reason, and he was in I walked in one day and he was playing football in the passageway, you know, and he was kicking lumps out of the little kids, like. I thought, yeah, that's Paulie.
Yeah.
But, you know, he enjoyed his stay, like, and I still speak to Paulie.
Yeah.
And they were good lads there. Great
I
lads.
bet you they never got a better education than in that hallway.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, you were talking about some of the names. Obviously, you know, Richard Ord had already kind of just about come through. Brian Atkinson, Warren Hawke. You mentioned David Rush, Anthony Smith, Paul Williams, Martin Gray. Like you said, Mickey Gray was coming through. And of course, you mentioned kind of Kieran Brady.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of talent who all came through the first team. But I mean, what were the standout talents when you were kind of covering the youth team, and were there any that, you know, where you thought they should make it, but you know they didn't just quite make it to that first team?
Well, the biggest one and the biggest disappointment was Kieran Brady. I've never come across a player, and I mean, I'm talking top players, could do the things with a football that Kieran Brady could do.
Yeah.
Twice he did it. I left the ground with him, and he started keeping the ball up. And we walked past the garage, through the park, to the back of the hostel, and he'd kept the ball up all that way. Hadn't dropped it once. Flicked it over the wall and like the partition at the garage. Flicked it over the wall, walked under the step and caught it on his foot, and walked in the doors. And I'm thinking I couldn't have kept it up for about 10 yards, you know.
Yeah.
And to do something like that, it's like I wouldn't have thought as many people in the world could do it, you know.
Mm.
And he had so much going for him. And the biggest thing that let him down was he enjoyed the social too much. And he wasn't interested in, you know, Kieran, you're putting weight on, you know, you need to lose a bit of weight. And yeah. And then nothing would happen. And this happened at the cup final. A month before, I said to Kieran he'd put a lot of weight on. And I said, Kieran, if you lose the weight, you'll either be playing, and I'm telling you now, and this is about 3 weeks, a month before, you'll either be playing or you'll be on the bench. And he put more weight on. And you think, I've just told you could be involved in a cup final. And it didn't register, you know. And it was sad. It was sad because I saw him score a goal against York. I was going to watch a game. I was caretaker manager. I was going to watch a game, and we were playing York, and Kieran was playing. And York scored. And we took the kick off, and the little lad, Stephen Brodie.
Good striker.
Rolled it to Kieran. He flicked it up and volleyed it from the centre circle over the keeper's head, one each. And you're like, who in the world could do that? You know, and he had incredible talent. He did suffer in the end because he had big injury problems with his feet, and he had an operation. But then, you know, he didn't do his rehab properly. And the annoying thing was, everybody loved Kieran. He was a good lad. He was, you know, chirpy and full of it, and a really confident player. Then he took me to the High Court because he said I'd ruined his career. And that was a bit silly of me because basically I was at Oxford United by then. And Bob Murray and his team had said, would I speak on behalf of Sunderland, which I shouldn't have done really because it just got me into deep water.
Yeah.
And I ended up in the High Court. Well, most people in the High Court are like either murdered 20 people or robbed a bank. And I was like, I've never sweated so much in my life, you know. It was horrendous.
Yeah.
And then the judge gave his verdict. He said, well, we agree. You probably used to work the players very hard. But, you know, the verdict is you didn't sort of finish his career. And I was like, my God, it was horrendous. Couple of months, you know. But I still, to this day, he was a wonderful talent. And then you went the other side and you had somebody like Davy Rush, who used to just run people into the ground. He was like non-stop, you know, non-stop. And so much energy. And he was a tough boy as well, you know. He was quite skinny, Rush. He wasn't like well built as such. But my goodness, he used to put himself about. And then the other one, the best one, really, was Brian Atkinson.
Yeah.
And I was on holiday and I went to see Denis and Viv, and Chris McMenemy was the coach then. And he said to me, oh, Crosby, will you take the lads for a run? He knew I was a fit lad. I was back home from Kuwait. And I said, yeah, I'll take them for a run. Well, Brian Atkinson, we got like halfway around or whatever. It was quite a run I gave him. He was sick. Well, he hated me, Brian. So when I came in and I got the youth team job, you know, he wasn't having me. And I was just like getting on with it and leaving him. And then one day he came up to me and thanked me. He said, you've done a lot for me because I'm fitter and, and I said, no problem. He was a good player though. And again, injury finished him, didn't it?
Yeah.
A really talented player and so strong. And then he had Paul Bracewell alongside him, who used to help him brilliantly. So there was a lot of the players. I mean, when what's the right back again? You mentioned Williams, Paul Williams.
Paul Williams, yeah.
He made his debut at Man U, didn't he?
Yeah, against Lee Sharp, wasn't it? He got tortured.
He was going to be a top player.
Yeah.
I don't know what really happened with it. I think he just seemed to lose his way. He never sort of kicked on as he should, really.
But he never recovered after that game at Old Trafford because Lee Sharp, we lost 5-0, I think, and Lee Sharp kind of tortured him. And we never really saw him again after that.
Yeah, it was a shame. It was probably not a game to put him in, really.
Yeah.
I blame Dennis. I wasn't.
Well, I mean, we're talking about Sunderland in the first division because that's kind of obviously what happened. Another, from the third division to the first division in 3 years, beating Newcastle in the semi-final.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's a strange situation with Swindon. But I mean, for you, because we've rattled off all those names and they were all coming through the youth team into the first team. I mean, it must have been, with those young players, it must have been a great time to be at the club where the club's just on the up, all these young players coming through. It must have been brilliant.
Well, it was. I mean, you forget as well, I went from youth team then into the reserves. And you look at people that were playing there, Paul Lemon and John Cornforth. And they were talented lads who'd had quite a lot of game time in the first team. And what I loved about the Northern lads, they got great sense of humour, and every day it was enjoyable. They never came in and you had to give them a rollicking for not working or whatever. They loved it. They loved the football. And it made my job easy. From youth team right through to reserve team, it made my job so easy because I would plan a training session and whatever you put on, they were there and ready to do it, They were great, great trainers. Really good.
Yeah. And we did make a decent go of it in Division 1. It was pretty close, went down the last day. Maybe, you'd argue if Marco hadn't picked up that injury, we might have been all right. But eventually we kind of went down and then it seemed like, Denis Smith was then under a bit of pressure. He hadn't really been given the tools to strengthen. And then he made a change in his backroom staff. Viv Busby left. You were officially promoted to the first team and then eventually assistant manager. But I mean, with all of that, with the history that you all had, it must have put you in an awkward position.
Well, first of all, we were under a bit of pressure with Dennis and Viv. We weren't winning many games. And then I came in on a Monday morning after we'd lost at home to somebody on the Saturday. And I came in and Jim Morrow said, "Oh, Dennis wants a word with you." So I went up to his office and he said, "Oh, you're going to take the first team." And I went, "Why is that then? Where's Buzzer?" He said, "Oh, he's just walked out." So I never got my head around it all. I don't think I ever found the truth why it happened. And I was quite shocked, because I loved Viv Busby. He was great, like.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, okay then." So I think, I'm not sure who we played. Did we play Portsmouth at home and win the first game?
Of the season? Derby at home? I think we played...
It was after Buzzer had left, and I think who did we play after they'd left? Was it Portsmouth?
Portsmouth away in early September. We got beat 1-0.
Nah, I'm trying to think. I think it was a home game I
had. Oxford.
We got beat at Oxford. We got beat at Tranmere, didn't we? It was around Easter time, I think, because I think we played Tranmere away and then Oxford away. That'd be right.
Yeah, well, that was when Denis Smith was sacked.
That's when Denis left after the Oxford game. But
the Tranmere and Oxford games.
I think we'd won a game and drawn a game before that. And I was enjoying it. It was tough, because things weren't going well. I do think Denis could have done with a bit more support, really. In terms of when we went down, I think we could have done with like 2 or 3 new faces coming into the squad. And I'm trying to think when we saw Marco. When did he go?
Well, that's it. I was going to say, because he went at the start of that season because he got a hat trick, I think, at Charlton, and then Denis Smith was basically forced to sell him because he hadn't had any money for, well, basically the whole time he was at the club to spend, really. But then he tried to freshen up with Don Goodman, John Byrne, and Anton Rogan. But was there a frustration that went through everyone that the club wasn't ready to kind of keep up with where Denis Smith was kind of taking us?
Well, I think the most important one was like selling Marco does not help you.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you would have brought in. We couldn't afford to get a Marco. I know we paid $1 million, was it, for Don?
Yeah, pretty much.
Who was a decent player.
Yeah.
But we still couldn't replace Marco because he was a good player. And if you'd have stayed with us in that league, I think we possibly might have got promoted again, or been close. And I don't think, and I could sense Denis wasn't happy.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell that by his manner, because when he's stroppy, he's stroppy, and when he's in good spirits, and like you say, and earlier, he's a good manager, but I don't think he got enough help. And selling Marco was not the ideal situation.
Yeah. I mean, when it came, like you said, it was just after Christmas. That defeat at Oxford was kind of the final straw, I think.
Yeah.
But I've also read that you weren't quite sure whether you wanted to step into the caretaker role. I mean, how did that conversation go after Denis, when you'd found out he was sacked?
Well, I'll tell you the reason why. Denis Smith had been fantastic for my career as a player, winning Division 2 and having a good team together, and then as a coach. And I was fuming when he got the sack.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, the chairman might want you to take over. And I was like, no, I want to leave with you. He said, no, don't do that. You stay. And I said, well, you better get a job. And then I'm coming, And then the rest, well, as I say, history, innit?
Yeah. Well, I mean, but what did Bob Murray say? Did he just say, can you just hold the reins for a couple of weeks or the end of the season? Or what was that conversation?
Well, I think I can't. When I look back now, I'm not sure if it was Bob who actually told me I was going to manage. Right. I can't remember. but I knew, because I think Bob obviously he knew that I said I want to leave Denis, and I think it's like anything. You make somebody caretaker, but you've got plans to get a manager in. So to this day, I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think for 1 minute Bob thought I was ready to be a manager. Right.
Right.
And I can understand that, because like your first manager job's quite a good one, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a bloody fantastic one,
Yeah.
And so I didn't think, but you get your head down and you work and see what you can do. And I made a couple of little changes, because Paul Bracewell had this wonderful, wonderful attitude, but he was trying to do everybody else's job. He used to be out on the right wing chasing people, on the left wing, and so when I got the job, I said, Paul, don't go out in the middle of the pitch. Don't go wide. Let Gordon work or Rushy do the job. stay in the middle, stay with Brian. And it was better then. We were more compact, and he didn't have to use loads of energy, which was wasted. And he was confident fella, Brace, but he was a good player, really good.
Yeah.
And he made a big difference.
Yeah, and he only had 50. I think it was 50% movement in one of his ankles, wasn't it? After.
Well, that's the thing, wasn't he? I mean, he used to say to me some mornings, "I'm going for a run, Crosby." I'll say, "Oh, I'll come." Like when I was caretaker, I'll say, "You meant to have a bad ankle, And he was a fit lad, like, and he was tough because he was in a lot of pain a lot of the time.
Yeah,
but he was tough.
Yeah, well, we'll come back to Bracewell, I'm sure. But but you took over. We're on the run of 5 defeats in 8, and your first game was leading the side at Roker against Barnsley, 1-2-0, goals from Gordon Armstrong and Don Goodman. But I mean, for you to lead your Sunderland side out at Roker, that must have been a big day.
Well, it's quite emotional. Still get emotional because, like, all my mates are Sunderland fans, and I think they were more emotional than me, to be honest. like one of the best mates getting the Sunderland job, coming from White Leys Council Estate. It's like it's a great story, but you kind of get too ahead of yourself with it, So yes, we won. I thought we played really well, and I didn't think for 1 minute, "All right, I'm going to get the job because we've won." I just let's crack on and keep working.
Well, you did, because we won the next one, which was an FA Cup third round tie against Port Vale. And I remember I was in the full end and I got chucked. I got chucked in the air when we scored. I was second by my brother, but that's another story. We won the next one 6-2 again at Roker. Don Goodman got a hat trick. Then travelled promotion chasing Derby County, won 2-1. You'd lifted us from 17th to 12th in a couple of weeks, won 4 on the bounce. Were you thinking it was easy at that point?
Well, I think being in football, you never think it's easy, But I was like, and that's why to this day, I feel a little bit in a way for Bob Murray, because he must have been like thinking, "My God, what's going on?" Because supporters can make a hell of a difference. And obviously, when you win every game, you're going to they're going to want to bring you in as the manager, So it was putting a lot of pressure on the board, me winning games. But let's face it, it's nice to win them,
Yeah.
And, like winning away, I think, did we? Oh, yeah, we played Oxford in the cup, didn't we? We got them in the cup.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, hey, I would say I was perhaps a little bit fortunate that the first 2 games I had were at home.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if you'd have been going away and you're on a bad run, it might have been a bit difficult. But the 2 home wins were good.
Yeah.
So that helped.
I mean, how tough was it in terms of the speculation? Because in those early days, and there was lots of names being bandied around, but actually, I'm sure Neil Warnock's come out and said in later years that actually he was lined up to take the job.
Yeah. Well, I played with Neil Warnock. He was at Aldershot with me. Right. And we were really pally. And he was funny because he had a career as a player, and I think he had 13 clubs. And Ward, he's always been renowned for having a few quid, it's all about money. And I think if he got another tenner or something, he was off, And we got on, and then he did his norm. He had a whinge up about something at Aldershot, and then he went to Barnsley as a player then. And it is true that Neil Warnock was offered the job, and I think he turned it down because of me. He said, "Look, that's my mate. I can't do it." That's what I've heard. That's the story I've been told, right? Whether that's true or not. But he said, "No, he's my mate, and he's, Where was he at the time?
Notts County, I think.
Right. Wherever he went, he did well.
Yeah.
He was a good manager.
Yeah.
And it was funny when you look at when he was a player, he used to do chiropody.
Right.
So he used to do my wife's nails, and she was a hairdresser, do her toenails, and then she was a hairdresser, and she'd give him a haircut. So he was always in for a good deal, Warnie. Yeah, good manager, really good manager, Warnie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a couple of weeks later, we went to Oxford United in the fourth round of the Cup, won 3-2, but we were leading 3-0 with a minute or so to go. And then after that, we played our first opposition from the top flight in the fifth round, which was Billy Bond's West Ham United. Yeah. Drew 1-1 at Roker on possibly the windiest day ever experienced in a football.
It was horrendous. It was horrendous.
I mean, John Burns' goal, I mean, I think you could give that to the wind, really, couldn't you?
I mean, like, first of all, the Oxford game, it had a big slope on that pitch. Mm. And when we got beat 3-0, I think it was 3-0 we lost, didn't we? Yeah.
No, we were winning.
When we got beat in the league.
Yeah.
I think we kicked down the hill in the first half, and then we had to defend it in the second half, and we never got out the box. So I said, and it's things like that can help win a game. I said, if we win the toss, we go up the hill first half, and we go down the hill second. And I think we were 2-0 up at half time going up the hill. Mm. And then it went to 3-0, and I was sat on the wall. I wasn't in the dugout. I was sat on the wall, and I'm thinking, this isn't bad, this. Like, it is. When you say, you're thinking it's easy. 3-0 up. And then, my goodness, we let 2 goals in about a minute.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I changed my mind then. I was like, oh, my God. But we managed to get through. And it was a big win, that. That was a massive win at the time.
Yeah.
Because, you need to win a couple of cup games if you can.
Yeah. And then West Ham obviously coming to town. But like I said, that goal from John Byrne, I'm not sure how much he touched it. I'm sure the wind just blew it in.
Yeah. It was a horrendous day. Many in a game at Sunderland and Newcastle. Yeah. It's windy.
Yeah.
It's always windy. I remember when I took the reserves, John Cornforth and Paul Lemon and that, they'd say, have we got the wind tunnel on, Cross? There's a wind tunnel, like every reserve game it was blowing a gale, and there's nobody there.
Yeah.
And get the wind tunnel on. Funny lads.
Well, Upton Park for the replay, and it turned out to be a bit of an epic. We took the lead, 2-0 lead, 25 minutes, and then by the hour mark it was 2-2. Then David Rush popped up around 10 minutes to go and got the winner. But I think with this one, it's worth mentioning Tony Norman that night.
Oh, without a doubt. When you go on a cup run, you do need a little bit of luck to take you to the next round. And, during that cup run, really, Tony Norman was fantastic.
Yeah.
He made some wonderful saves, and he kept us in the game, and then we'd go along and score. So Tony Norman that night, he was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And, I always it's maybe a bit harsh, but I'll say, well, he's a goalkeeper, that's his job, right? And if he makes a load of saves, he's done his job. And my goodness, Tony Norman did his job.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the best shot stoppers I think I've ever seen play for Sunderland, Tony Norman.
Yeah, he was.
Next up, Chelsea, managed by Ian Porterfield, which added something to the game. I mean, but how was that for you? Obviously, a Sunderland supporter, Sunderland lad, going up against Ian Porterfield in the FA Cup for Sunderland.
Well, one, he was like a hero because when I played at Aldershot, I was only young, and we got promoted on the Friday night at Stockport, and we stayed in Manchester. Then we went back on the coach. I got off the coach at Watford, and I went to Wembley to see Sunderland win the FA Cup next year. And obviously Porterfield, hero, Jimmy Montgomery, hero. And it was real. I think Bob Stokoe was there as well with Porterfield, wasn't he?
Was he a coach there, was he?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I'm sure he was with him. And he was a really nice fella, Porterfield, like. But he was a good footballer. He was a left footer, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I liked him. I used to watch him, and he was good. Not as good as Jim Baxter, like, but he was good.
Yeah, left-footed, but his most famous moment was the right foot volley, wasn't it?
Aye, yeah. I mean, the cup final at 73, it was incredible because when I look at it, I think we probably did better against Liverpool than Sunderland did against Leeds, you know. We got totally outplayed. But it's brilliant to just, you know, when you get somebody like Jimmy Montgomery making them saves.
Yeah.
And unfortunately on the day, you know, our luck ran out a little bit.
Well, moment, isn't it? I'll come back onto that because against Chelsea, obviously late equaliser at Stamford Bridge brought them back to Roker. I mean, for me, this was the last big cup night under the lights at Roker Park, and it actually turned out to be our last ever FA Cup victory at Roker Park. People still talk about it today. I mean, I seen Gordon Armstrong's goal, seeing the corner, and actually I've seen quite a lot of the game back because I think the full game's on YouTube somewhere.
Right.
But I mean, this is a proper old-fashioned cup tie, end to end, freezing cold. You can see the wind blowing, the tackles are flying in. I mean, but what are your memories of that night? Because I mean, I think everyone remembers it of a certain age.
Well, I can remember it being a really good proper cup tie, like you've said. I remember them having some really good players. And, you know, we knew it was going to be a difficult game, even though we'd drawn at Chelsea, which we deserved there. But, I was in disbelief when we scored at the end of the game because Gordon and Brian Atkinson had been practicing that. And after training, they used to practice that corner. And I used to be stood there watching them, you know, and I'd say, "You've got no chance of scoring from there, man." But Gordon, my God, he could head a ball, you know. He was tremendous with it, and Brian had the accuracy to pick him out. But it was worked. And when you see something that you've practiced and it works, I was stunned. You know, I was in shock when it went in. It was one of the best headers you'll ever see. And you know, it was a massive, massive moment for the club.
Well, I think it's a huge one in our history because I think, like I said, people still talk about it today, and the pitch invasion afterwards as well. I mean, I think that was the last one at Roker as well.
Was it? Yeah. Well, you can understand it, can't you? You know, you can understand why it went on the pitch because I think to score like you do in the last seconds of the game.
Like that.
Oh God, you know. And that was the great thing about them sort of moments. It sort of energized the city and the area. And so it's not all about me or the players and the club. It's about the population. And the population would have been walking around a lot happier than they might normally have been, you know. And so that gives you you get a lot of pleasure out of that.
Well, it's funny because you say that actually this whole cup run this year, this cup run, take the league out of it, but you know, at the time it wasn't a good time for Sunderland. You know, you had the shipbuilding going down, people losing jobs. Early 90s was a bad time for the city.
Yeah.
And this kind of galvanized everyone because and this night, because it was obviously, you know, we went on to Hillsborough, Wembley, but this night at Roker was probably, like I said, the last big one for quite some time.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it was. Well, one, like you've just said earlier, the atmosphere was incredible. You know, it really was. And we were playing a very good team.
Yeah.
So, you know, to finish it like you did, it was like, it's like boys' own stuff, isn't it? You know, it was, and for the public. And I remember before they bought the tickets, they were queuing up outside Roker buying tickets. And my wife and I, it was about 9:30 at night or something. We had to walk around, you know, and I was chatting to loads of supporters. Look, they were all around the ground, you know. But I was stopped and chatting to them, and you know, and I thought I'm only in the hostel. It's a good thing to do, come and have a chat. Probably good for me in the end as well. But the whole thing, and like you say, it's what the area. If you're a Sunderland supporter, my God, your days were a bit brighter.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the games were coming thick and fast because our schedule got ridiculous at the end of that season. But there was 2 games between the quarterfinal replay and the semi-final which stick out. There were only 2, but first we had a visit from Bristol City, who were managed by Denis Smith.
Yeah,
where obviously you might have gone to.
yeah.
So
Oh, no, you wanted
how
me
was
to.
that?
Yeah, you wanted me to go to Bristol. When you got the job, and I just said no, I'm staying. I'm gonna give it a go. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you wanted me to go there. It would have been a good job. I think they beat us, didn't they? Was it 2-0?
3-1.
3-1.
Brian Atkinson scored from about 35 yards.
That's right. And the one thing, I've never made it as an excuse, but it is a decent one. We had so many games to play before that cup final. But I won't go into that too early. But it was difficult, very difficult.
Yeah.
Players were tired. They were knackered.
Yeah. Well, after that Bristol City game, you had the small matter of taking on Newcastle at St James's Park for a derby, and Kevin Keegan, I think, had just taken over because I think they were down in trouble. Ozzy Ardiles got sacked. Keegan came in, and we lost 1-0 to a David Kelly goal.
Yeah.
But those 2, the Bristol City game and the Newcastle game, must have been strange games to sandwich in between a quarter-final and a semi-final.
It was very, very difficult because we were playing I think a couple of weeks we had a Tuesday and a Thursday game, didn't we?
Yeah.
Well, if a player was asked, if the Premier League were asked to play like that now, they'd be kicking off. They wouldn't do it. Yeah. I think we had 2 weeks of that. And so, it was very, very difficult. Difficult times. And it made it harder because we were struggling in the league then.
Yeah.
And it's no good. It was no good getting to Wembley and then getting relegated.
Yeah.
So
how was that? I mean, was the pressure on? Because obviously our form, I mean, I think it was something like we won 3-18 or something like that in the league. But was it, a bit of a head scratcher for you in terms of how they were turning it on against, top flight opposition and taking it to Chelsea, and then in the league, we just weren't getting the results?
Well, it was a lot of pressure on not just me. It was a lot of pressure on the whole club, really. The players were, it was very hard for the players. And not only are you playing maybe away, you're travelling, you're in hotels. It's not ideal if you're doing that like 2 or 3 times a week. Whereas I think Liverpool got to the final, and I don't know if they had a game. They probably played Saturday, and so it was tough going. And at the end of the day, the one thing I had to do was try and keep us up. That was more important than the cup run. Keeping us up was the most important.
Yeah.
And luckily we did that, but it wasn't great by any means.
Yeah. Yeah. Because then we did have the semi-final at Hillsborough against Norwich City. And is this one almost an easy team talk when you're just one game away from Wembley?
Well, I think at the time Norwich were in the top league, weren't they?
Yeah.
And they were doing reasonably well. But there was nothing. They were a good footballing team, and I went to see them one game. It was a hell of a drive, but I went down to Norwich to watch them. And they were a good footballing team, but there was nothing that made me scared. I was thinking, this game is probably going to be not as hard as maybe Chelsea or West Ham. Because they tried to get it down and play, and we got amongst them and got into them. And it was a typical semi-final, really. It wasn't very good. But all that matters is win.
Yeah.
If you're in a semi-final, it doesn't matter how you play, you just got to win and get in the final. But I thought we did it quite comfortably, to be honest. I thought we did really well on the day. And again, little things like at the end of the game, we weren't allowed to come out and go to the supporters because of the Hillsborough disaster, which we all know was terrible. But it was a bit like, it was a shame because the fans deserved that, coming back out. And unfortunately, we couldn't do it. So we missed out on that a little bit.
Yeah.
And that was disappointing.
Yeah.
But, the players, they were fantastic against good opposition. And once you're in a final, like, the next thing is you've got to win that, haven't you?
Well, I mean, just on that, just quickly on that goal, because you're talking about young players. I think it was Brian Atkinson flicked it through to David Rush.
Yeah.
And then I think David Rush, or it might have been the other way around, David Rush flicked it through to Atkinson.
He crossed it and Rushy put it in, didn't he?
No, it was on John Burns' head, but Atkinson
Bernie put it in, yeah.
I mean, he couldn't have put it any better for him. All he needed to do was nod it a yard in, and that was and that was that, wasn't it? But you mentioned the fans at the end, because on the cup they wouldn't leave until you popped your head out.
Well, I know, but it was a shame that the players weren't allowed to do that. And I understand the reasons why, but we missed out a little bit there because it is a fantastic achievement and it's great for the supporters. Would have absolutely loved that. I mean, I don't know if you know, but when we were in coming out, we were on the coach, and then there was traffic everywhere, and there was a couple of coaches behind us full of Sunderland fans. So they stopped in the traffic. So I got out and I said, "Come on, come in." So they were all piled on the coach with the players and that, And eventually we started to get moving again, so we had to get them all off. And that was a great thing for them anyway. That's a good experience. And the lads, obviously the players loved all that. So, yeah, it's a good day.
We'll give a shout out anybody who was on that coach to get in touch. It'd be good, good for them to talk about that stuff.
Well, there was we brought a few young kids on as well, And, it was good. They're probably like you say, they're probably 40 or 50 now.
That's it. Nice. Amazing, isn't it? But preparation for the final. And I was going from memory because you from memory, you went away somewhere for the week and there was kind of late injury. I think John Kay picked something up and you had to kind of make a decision and there was a bit of a reshuffle. And then obviously, I think there was a big one where Paul Hardyman missed out, who played most of the games. I mean, obviously you concentrate on picking the best team for the final, but at the same time, not everyone was like Paul Bracewell, who played 4 FA Cup finals. So this was maybe their only chance. So it was always going to be a big call if you left someone out.
Well, it was horrible for me, but it was even worse for Paul. But the reason I did it was I felt that our best chance of probably beating Liverpool would be set players. So I wanted a bigger team. So that's why I had to stick like Anton at left back. And obviously Gary Owers, he was strong in the air. Yeah. And then I had Ori and Benno. And so we had a lot of like big lads in the side. Gordon, very good in the air. Don Bernie was okay in the air, but he was a real talent. And it's hard picking a team, isn't it, for a cup final? So, Paul Hardyman, for a few years, he hated me, which I understand. I managed to get him on at Wembley, but we met up a few times because he's in coaching now. He was at Southampton, and we met up, and we're all right now. But I can fully understand that. Why, if I had played the games and not been picked, I would have hated the manager. So it was a difficult one. We didn't really exploit them as I thought we might. I've never watched the game back. I watched the first half about 4 or 5 months ago, and I put my laptop down. I said, "I'll tell you what, I think we played quite well that first half." I
Yeah.
could, I had this thing in my head that we lost 2-0 and we were rubbish first half, but we weren't. We were quite good,
Hmm.
possibly the better team.
Yeah.
And it's like famous last words, isn't it? I said it half time. Go 20 minutes
Huh.
and you'll win it. You'll win this.
Yeah.
What did we do? We let a goal in after 2, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
after that, we got a bit of it was hard going, you know?
Yeah. I mean, just going back to the moment at the beginning, because like I said, you're only one of 3 people to lead Sunderland out at Wembley in an FA Cup final. You're a Sunderland fan, so I think you're the first Sunderland fan to lead his old club out at Wembley.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming that's your proudest moment in football.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah. Without a doubt. I mean, like, yeah, we used to go, I used to meet 2 or 3 of my mates and go to the Britannia pub in Clean Village. And I used to be sitting with them having a pint, and they were like, "Do you not realise you're going to Wembley, you know?" And I'm like, "I know I am, but I'm with my mates, I'm having a pint, you know." So, and it, I think they were probably more proud and chuffed than me, you know. It was like, it was difficult to get your head around, really. But you need, when you get somewhere and do something, you need help, you know. And I got help. I had Roger Jones alongside me. He was a big help, not as a coach, Rog, but he would help and get things sorted out. Jim Morrow was a great fella to have, you know.
Yeah.
He was a wonderful fella, and it was good for people like Jim, you know, to actually be going to Wembley.
Hmm.
And the board were great. Graham Wood, who was vice chairman. I'm still very, very friendly with him. And in 3 weeks, we're having a trip to Scotland. We're going to watch Arbroath. So, you know, I keep in touch with Graham. We go places. He loves his railways because my father was a railwayman. I love my railways. He loves his football. And so, you know, it's great to still have friends. And I've got a friend of mine who lives in, well, my best mate. He was my best man. He's my best mate. He lives in the States, Florida, and he bought a railway nameplate called Pride of Sunderland, and it cost him $5,000. He's got this up on his wall. So that Sunderland fans, you just cannot hold them back. They're brilliant.
No. I mean, again, that day, I mean, because you've said you watched that first half and you talk about the proudest moment in football in your career, how do you look back on it? Because is it something where you say, we got to the cup final and I led my club out, or is it a what if based, you know, we had those chances in that first half, John Byrne a few yards out, you know, fluffed his lines for the first time in that cup run. But how do you look back on it? Is it a slight regret, or is it a no? That was just brilliant.
Nah, it's a what if, because quite rightly so. When I look at the '73 team and how well respected and loved they still are now, and it's because they won it.
Yeah.
If they hadn't have won it, all that kind of stuff wouldn't have happened. And them players deserve whatever they get, you know, even now, because they won it.
Yeah.
So I'm disappointed that we didn't win it in terms of, you know, when you know, if you lose a game of football, you're forgotten. You're easily forgotten.
Yeah.
And that's the way the game is, you know. You've got to win something and you're not forgotten. And I can't believe how wonderful the Sunderland supporters have been to me. Like 30 years, I got invited to a dinner last year, or you know, to this wonderful dinner in Sunderland. And you're thinking, it was an invite for me and the Sunderland team. And you're like, you're incredible, you know. They just don't give it up. They're brilliant. And quite right, when you're like rubbish and you're getting beat, they'll give you plenty of stick, but you've got to accept that.
Mm.
That's so. It was so disappointing that I think letting that early goal in sort of it drained us a lot in that game, and I do think to this day we had a hell of a schedule before we played it.
Yeah.
I wish we could have had a couple of weeks where we just went Saturday, and were fresh and had no excuse. And to this day, I do think we had a little bit of an excuse.
Yeah.
But what can you do? The support was fantastic. When you're in football, you're disappointed if you don't win.
Yeah.
And obviously it's a cup final. It's a massive disappointment. But we give it everything we had.
Yeah.
And that's all you can ask.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just wanted to quickly ask you, because Denis Smith put in his book about you sending him a cardboard cutout of you leading the team out.
I can't remember that.
No. All right.
No, I can't remember that.
I'm sure he said in his book it was a life-size picture of you leading the Sunderland team out at Wembley.
He's probably made that up, I think.
All right. I was going to say, because I can't imagine what it was like for him watching you lead that team out.
Oh, well, to this day, he said it was his team. And I just say, well, it wasn't, because you weren't there. It was my team. Yeah, you always put that in a quote. It was my team,
Well, I mean, talking about you being caretaker, you were made permanent manager. Was it just before the final you were made permanent manager?
Yeah. Yeah, it was the day we played Blackburn away. Another one of them crazy, probably Thursday night games.
Yeah.
And Bob Murray, he didn't. I got told by whoever it was that I'd been made caretaker manager.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, Bob didn't come up and tell me that. Somebody else did it. He was funny, Bob, because he would do anything for the team, to help the team.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd let us, he'd say, do you want to go away for a few days or whatever? Do you need to rest or things like that? But I just could have done with a bit more support with him when it came to transfers, buying players.
Yeah, well, that was going to come on to that summer, because the first thing that happened was obviously Paul Bracewell was offered a 1-year contract, and then he turned it down before moving up the road for a tribunal, what it was then, rather than it wasn't a Bosman then. But did you feel up against it after that?
Well, I wanted a 2-year deal for him. He wanted it, and wouldn't do it. So that wasn't a good start.
Yeah.
Because Paul Bracewell was a good player and he proved it when he went to Newcastle.
Yep.
So that was a bad start. Not much I could do, It's not often players move from Newcastle, Sunderland, vice versa. But when you've got Kevin Keegan coming in to take you, you're going to go, aren't you? And if he would have stayed if you'd have got the 2-year.
Yeah.
And I thought I'd get that for him easily, but it wasn't to be.
Yeah, well, he told us that, and he said he arrived back home after the cup final, a letter on the doorstep, 1-year contract.
It was a big disappointment because he was a good leader, Brace.
Yeah.
A really good leader.
Well, you managed to bring in Sean Cunnington, John Colquhoun. I think those were your kind of signings for money. Sean Cunnington was actually a fairly big money signing, well, for us at the time, relatively.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think when I ended up manager and was signed Sean, Bobby Ferguson came in, and first of all, I wanted George Armstrong, and George wouldn't come because back to the money. He was working for Arsenal as a reserve coach. The money wasn't good enough, so he wouldn't come. And I took Bobby Ferguson, who had been a top coach at Ipswich with Bobby Robson.
Yeah.
But he was as good a coach he was. He'd got. I think he got a bit. I think I probably brought him in at maybe too old. And the first, he was never off Sean Cunnington. He was always having to go at Sean Cunnington, which wasn't helping Sean Cunnington.
Mm.
So I had to step in on that. That wasn't working very well. And then Cologne was very, very good for us. But then he picked up a bad injury. Sean Cunnington, for me, when he was with me, didn't particularly do very well, but probably kept you in the league when Terry Butcher took over, because he scored some vital goals, keep you in the league. So I got, Bob Murray gave me the money for Sean.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was 600 grand, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a big sign. He was their captain, Grimsby's captain, I think, wasn't he?
Yeah, and he was excellent for them.
Mm.
And I'd played with him at Wrexham when I went on loan.
Right.
Yeah. So I went on loan to Wrexham for a month, and he was in the team, Sean. And great kid. But John Cologne, I think, did we do a deal with Millwall with him, with Johnny Bird?
Yeah, that's when, and it was Part X, wasn't it?
Because John Hurney, who I'd played with at York, we were like big mates, and I played at York with him. Anyway, we went to Magaluf after the cup final. And to be fair to Bob Murray, he said, "You can take them anywhere you like in the world." I said, "Right, right." So, I said, "Right, lads, sit yourselves down, have a chat, let me know where you want to go." They come back and went, "Magaluf." I'll be like, "I can't believe you, lad." Magaluf, you can go anywhere you like. Oh, no, we'll go to Magaluf. And so the first night I get there, I'm sat with the lads having a drink and that. Bernie starts. "I want this, I want that." He'd had a couple of drinks. "I want this, I want that." And I said, "You've got no chance, And then I said, "Right, I'll speak to the chairman," and da-da-da. Wasn't forthcoming. And next thing, Bernie, he's off to Millwall,
Yeah.
Worst thing he ever did, he said.
Yeah.
Going there. I mean, why would you want to go there? Sunderland and Millwall. No disrespect to Millwall. They've got a nice new stadium and that, but Sunderland's a big, big club,
Yeah. Well, at the time, I'm sure he had some problems with the fans. He stuck the V's up, I think, at some point or something like that. Or the start of that season, something wasn't right, I think.
That was probably at me. He probably did that at me, not the fans. He was a great mate of mine, and he was a pain in the arse after the cup final because he scored in every game. He thought he should have like a big wage, Hey, that's down to him. He must have got it at Millwall, which I think London clubs pay well because it's expensive to live there. Yeah. So he would have got good money, but it wouldn't have been cheap living there,
Yeah.
But no, it was hard. I tried to get Danny Wilson in from Chef Wed. Didn't get any help with that one. And the other one was a centre half at Chef Wed. He was from Hartlepool. Big tall lad. I tried
Not
to
Linnigan?
No, I don't think it was Linnigan. I can't think of his name. Played for Chef Wed for a long time. And I didn't get really the backing. The worst one, I love Gordon Armstrong. He'd been there 7, 8 years, or whatever. Southampton came in for him.
Yeah.
And I thought, do you know what? I think they were in the top league then, Southampton. And I said, he deserves a move. And it'll help him in his game because I think sometimes you're at the club a long time, it gets a bit stale. And they offered something like 700 grand. And I said to the chairman, "That's good money, He went, "Now, tell them we want 8. Right, went to 8, come back, they said they would do it. He went, "We want 1 million. And they just told me where to go then.
Yeah.
But it was Gordon who I felt for because I think he deserved a move, a good move for him for his career. And so that sort of thing, I needed that money to try and bring in 2 or 3 more players. And it didn't happen, so you move on.
Yeah.
And, it was difficult then.
Yeah. And it's funny because I think Gary Hours might have suffered in a similar way,
I'm
where
trying,
he was at the club for quite a long time, and I think a few offers, people were sniffing around him for a while.
right.
But
Well, I think a lot of the players ended up when Terry Butcher took over. They all left, didn't they? Most of them.
yeah, pretty much. But
Yeah.
I mean, another name, because we talked about a mutual acquaintance before we started recording, but a kind of a name I got from him years ago about your time in charge was Rule Fox. I don't know if there was anything in that.
Not that I can remember.
No.
No.
Okay.
No, who mentioned it? Like,
I'll tell you after.
all right. Rule Fox.
But anyway, but that would have been a good one. But just quickly, you mentioned Bobby Ferguson. He was kind of the one behind the reason why Terry Butcher came to the club.
Well, he absolutely loved Terry Butcher because, let's face it, they'd had good times at Ipswich. Him as a player and Bobby as a coach. They'd had great times. And he was, I think he'd had a bad knee. He'd been out injured anyway. He didn't have a club. And so we brought him in. And I felt when he first came in, I thought he did well. But then I probably was a bit naive, though probably the two of them were like getting together to become the managerial pair, I think. So I probably wasn't getting very highly spoken of, possibly. But look, that's football. I regret bringing him in because not, I didn't think he was like. He improved us a little bit, but not a lot. I think he improved because of his experience, but he still struggled.
Yeah.
And so I made the mistake of going along with that one. And that was my fault.
I remember. I just remember my memory of him playing is giving Julian Georgiam a 30-yard head start, and Georgiam still beat him to the ball. I think that was.
Well, that was the thing. He couldn't run, could he?
Yeah.
The disappointing thing is, I got the sack. Oh, do you want to talk about that later, or I got this?
Well, no, because I was going to ask, was there any signs of it coming?
Well, when I went, it's crazy because I'm it's quite a good quiz thing, isn't it? Have you heard about the quiz thing? So
Not sure.
when we went to Tranmere and it got called off.
Oh yes, that was it. The Pools result.
And I went to Crewe to watch Crewe. I got a train to Manchester. I got a train back to Sunderland, to Newcastle, train to Bolton. I got home at like 12:15 at night. On the Monday, I went in, and one of the directors pulled me, but wasn't Bob, and said they were sacking me. So that's one of the quiz questions, isn't it? That which man has got the sack? After getting beat on the pools panel.
Yeah.
And it's me. So it's quite a good quiz question to have for him. But when they said, Terry Butcher's manager, I left him a message to say, all the best. I hope things go well and that. He never got back to me, never spoke to me. And I thought, well, that sums him up, really. So, and to be honest, I haven't had a great career as a manager, but I think it's probably better than his.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because in his book, he has a pop at Mick Buxton for doing the same thing.
What was that? Oh, what, stitching him up?
Well, basically saying that I'll speak to you later, and he says, he never called us. So he's
getting his own comeuppance, isn't he? Because he never bothered speaking to me.
Yeah. So
and
yeah, I was going to say, but do you get an inkling of these things are in the air when before you get the nod, or when you had the conversation, was it kind of a complete shock that it was happening?
I knew it could happen because we weren't winning games. We weren't doing very well. at the time. So yeah, when you're not winning and you get the sack, there's not really a lot you can complain about. Really,
Yeah.
you've got to accept it. But according to Bobby, it was nothing to do with them two getting me the sack. But I don't know. And to this day, you'll never find out. So
Yeah. But just quickly, with no transfer window at the time, were you knocking on Bob Murray's door saying, I could do with a couple of players here?
well, they always knew we had players on lists. We had a list of players that would like to try and bring in. But I do think, and that's not down to Bob. It's not Bob Murray's problem. Fault. If you're not winning, he probably wasn't too interested in letting me use that list because he's possibly thinking I'm going to bring somebody else in. Now, Terry Butcher became the easy option, but if you looked at his record when he'd been at Coventry, you would be like possibly thinking, I'm not sure if I want to do that. Maybe get somebody else in. I don't know. Look, it's a difficult one. I think the players always sort of held me in quite high regard. I thought I was fair with them. I don't think they felt that way with Terry Butcher, because they used to keep in touch with me. But that's, we all work differently. And if that's how he wanted to work, because he sort of left quite a lot of players out of the team, didn't he?
Transfer list, I think 4 or 5, didn't he, straight away?
Which, for me, I don't think that's very clever. Because you're just like upsetting players in the squad who are not happy then. And when you're like not winning, I mean, I think we only did we stay up because somebody else got beat or
last day of the season, we got beat at Notts County 3-1, and I think it was Cambridge who didn't get a result, and we ended up staying up, even though we got beat.
Yeah,
we had to rely on someone else.
Yeah, and look, I'm a Sunderland supporter, so I wasn't like I was delighted that they stayed up.
Yeah,
because the last thing they needed was to go into Division 1 again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, after Sunderland, you worked at, lots of other clubs, Swindon Town, West Brom, Oxford, Middlesbrough, Northampton, but you were always a coach or assistant manager, and you didn't actually step into another manager's position until you went to Gateshead, like 20 years after leaving Sunderland as manager. But did you never fancy another crack at management?
Well, I did about 2 months at Oxford when Denis left. Denis went to West Brom, and the club were in a mess, and West Brom paid Oxford for Denis. And I did a couple of months or a month and a half, I can't remember how long. And I was in charge, and I think I could have stayed on, but Denis wanted me to go to West Brom. And again, West Brom were going to pay money to Oxford for me. Because we'd had a great time at Oxford when, we had a really good team, and then we had to disbanding it all because the club were in money problems. So some clubs, Derby, I was sacked. I left West Bromwich. I left Swindon. I left Northampton. I'm trying to think where else I've been. But some clubs I left, and some are out, you're sacked. Oxford had after leaving Sunderland, Oxford was a great time, great club. Denis and I had a hell of a team together. 6 from top in the Championship, November, December. Then the owner goes bust, and you're selling all your best players. And it's amazing how within like 6 weeks, how a football club can change, And it was such a shame because the way Denis works, you've done your podcast with him. Denis not shy, he's confident. And we were so confident to get promoted into the Premier League because of the players that we had there. And unfortunately, Joey Beecham and Matty Elliott and Phil Gilchrist all went for big money. But if we'd have kept them, we would have romped that league. Well, we would have got promoted.
Yeah.
So you miss out on, Derby never worked. Steve McLaren was fantastic. He recommended me to Derby when he left to go to Man United, and I worked with Jim Smith, who you either one day you love him, the next day you don't love him. His mood swings, He was a great bloke, but my God, some days, and I couldn't hack it. Anyway, I didn't enjoy it, and they won the Premier League and started off well, oh, the lads love you, it's great, it's this, it's that. And then after a few defeats, it was quite funny, like, God bless him, because Jim's passed away now, but
No.
I went in his office to tell him about a player that had been recommended. And he says, oh, I forgot this morning, I was going to tell you, I'm letting you go. so it's quite funny, really. Like, he sacked me, but he forgot he was going to sack me in the morning, right? He had too much on. So he says, oh, I'm sacking you, All right, cheers. But when I went in the office, all the staff are in there, Everyone had his head down in a pad, writing. And I was like, it's all right, lads, get your head up. I've been told, I'm off.
Yeah.
But it was like, football brings up some really funny tales, and that was a funny one, like when Jim had forgot to sack me.
But yeah.
That's the way it is.
I was going to quickly ask about Middlesbrough as well, working with Gareth Southgate. Did you see him going on to become this international manager like he became?
Yeah, I could see him being I worked with Steve McLaren. I was reserve coach at Middlesbrough, right? He took me in. And again, I had a group of players, all like under 18, 19. They were fantastic. Reserves, attitude, everything was the personality of them. They were winners, And Steve McLaren did a great job there. And he used quite a lot of the young players. And then he got the England job, Steve. And the chairman brought in Gareth. And I loved working with Gareth. He made me like assistant manager, which was out the blue. Like, I wasn't expecting that. I just thought he was coming in and I'd stick with the reserves. And he was fantastic to work with. Great person. Tough. Could be stubborn. And I think to this day, when we got relegated, I think he sacked me. But I'll never know to this day because I never found out who actually sacked me. Right. I asked the chairman. No, I asked Keith Lamb, who was vice chairman. He said, no, Gareth sacked you, not us. Then I spoke to Gareth and he said, they sacked me. So to this day, I still think he's a fantastic fella. And Sunderland comes into the equation because Ricky Sprazier was taking Sunderland's team on a caretaker basis. Ricky had got told if he kept them up, he was getting the job. He said, would you come with us, Cross? And I said, well, I'll have a think about it. And I thought, this is my mistake and my being a bit too honest. I thought, I'm going to tell Gareth, just in case he finds out from another source that Sunderland are interested. And I said to him, look, I'm not saying I'm going, but that they want to take me but I said, look, I want to stay here. But then I got told I'd been sacked and we got relegated on the last day, West Ham away. So that was possibly my fault. But he's a great fella. And I think the reason he's a good manager is he's not frightened to make tough decisions. He doesn't shy away from them at all. And he can shock you with some of them. You're like, wow. But I have a lot of time for him. And I suppose I have to call him sir now. And I speak to him. When the Euros were on, I'm trying to think which game. I think did we draw with Denmark? I think. And
Rings a bell.
I sent him a message and said, "You know, fancy giving Watkins a run out?" You know, because I think I still think like a coach, and I'm thinking I still think I can, you know, give good advice. So I said, and I didn't hear anything from him. And then they played. Who did we play with? They won, and Watkins scored. Come on and scored.
Yeah.
So I got a message off Gareth saying, "Oh, your mate did well when he come on, didn't he?" So, you know, that's what I love about him. He's got like a great sense of humour, and he's tough.
Yeah.
And whether he'll take another job, I don't know.
Be interesting.
But he's a great fella, Gareth, and I really enjoyed working with him. Shame I still couldn't pay, but it would help financially, wouldn't it?
Well, I mean, in recent years, you've been working as more of a kind of a scout and chief scout, and you're chief scout currently at Exeter City. And I think for most people, if you ask them if they want to be paid to go around the country watching football, it sounds like a dream job. But is it as glamorous as people might think it is?
No, well, I can rattle through. I mean, I left Northampton as a coach and went to Oxford as head of recruitment.
Mm-hmm.
I left there because they wanted to drop me money and everything, and I ended up at Birmingham with Lee Clark.
Yeah,
and I loved it with Lee. He was whatever people think of him. I loved him. I think he's a great fella. I went from Birmingham then to Wigan, and Gary Caldwell was manager. And when he got the sack, I got dismissed. I did Shrewsbury for a little while, but then they brought a new manager in who brought his own recruitment fella in, which, you know, fine. They were fine about it. And then Gary got this Exeter job, and I've been working for Gary. Now, I don't earn a chief scout's salary, right? It's like small what I get. It's not like, you know, what you a full time, if you like. So basically, Gary lets me go where I want, when I want. So I do mostly games in the south. If I go up north, I might go and take games up there. But I have a good relationship with him. He should get a better job. What he's doing at Exeter is fantastic to keep them in that league. They've had good cup runs. Last year they had a League Cup run, which was good. This year, FA Cup. He's a good manager. He's got unbelievable enthusiasm for the job. And he's a good listener. He listens. So I'm going up on Wednesday. I'll be going for a couple of days down to Exeter. And we throw names at, you know, we'll have a list of players and names. So I do enjoy working for him. It's really good. And it's 70. What I don't want, I got offered the other 3 months ago. I was offered the full-time role at Northampton as head of recruitment. Because Gary had been telling the manager how good I was supposed to be, right? Because he'd asked where we get the players from. He's saying, "Oh, because I get some." He's like this. So the next day I get a phone call off Northampton because I'm only like 30 mile away. Do you fancy coming in? You know, and I went, and it was like treble the money. But I just said, no, I'm just going to stay and work with Gary. You know, and actually the manager left about a month ago. Northampton 2 months ago. But yeah, Gary's good with me. I can basically do my own thing, you know. And then we have a lot of scouts who work at different areas. But it's a lovely club, really good club, well run. Supporters owned. I like it. I enjoy it.
Yeah. And I mean, from in terms of scouting, and you looking from the outside, just looking at Sunderland and the way they're doing things, because it seems to be very youth oriented, data driven. I mean, how do you look at the way Sunderland's done things over the last couple of years?
Well, first of all, Christian Speakman.
Yeah,
I worked with him when I was at Birmingham. He was in charge of the academy, right? And he did a really good job there. Did a really good job. Now he's gone into Sunderland. It's a bit of a more senior role, isn't it now?
Yeah.
He has his critics. I think he's done a really good job. I think the manager that they brought in, I don't know the fella, I've never heard of him really, but he's done a fantastic job.
Yeah.
The only thing you might worry about is because they are young, it might get tough going, in the last 6 or 7, 8 games of the season. But I think what they've done, I think they've done a remarkable job. They don't spend a lot of money, do they?
Mm.
Now, whether they've got money or whether they haven't got money, maybe they haven't got the money to spend. But I think they've done really well. I think it's just it's trying to keep players fresh, young players fresh, because they might feel that they're okay legs wise and everything, but it's upstairs that, if you start feeling tired upstairs, the rest goes. And I think they probably, I kind of tell them what they should be doing, but I'm sure that they must be being a bit easy with them at the minute, I think, because there's some good young players there. They've got really good energy. I went this year. I went to watch them play Coventry when they were 2-0 up at half time.
Yeah.
And I thought, God, they're like Brazil here. And then the second half, God, it was just totally different. Now, the poor manager probably thought, what the hell's going on, because they were so poor second half. And I wouldn't say Coventry were great second half, but, they pulled it back to 2 each. So I was in shock.
Mm.
But it's like anything. The people who are working in the club, they know whether they've got the money or not to buy players.
Mm.
And the public don't find out normally. And it seems to me as if maybe they haven't got like a lot of money like maybe Leeds can spend or Burnley or Sheffield United. But I think they've done a great job. And they're going to be in the playoffs, aren't they?
Yeah.
They'd have to lose nearly every game, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Now, and once you get into the playoffs, it's anybody's, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now,
Absolutely.
Last year, I supported them against Luton. They got bullied.
Mm.
And you wouldn't like that to happen again this year because it's like young and you just think you don't want them getting bullied. I like the goalkeeper. I love the centre-backs, the full-backs, bags of energy, aggressive. Sometimes lose their way a little bit in midfield. Can go missing for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but I still, whatever, I don't know the manager, but I think he's done a great job.
Mm.
And we just hope once they get in the playoffs. I went to Qatar, my daughter lives there, and Sunderland were on the telly. I'm trying to think who they played. They won. They beat somebody 4-5-0 this season, early in the season. And my
Sheffield Wednesday.
Was it Sheffield? Might have been.
That's the only game I remember that was 3 or 4-0. That was 4-0.
Right. What about the season before? Anyway, they bought me a Sunderland shirt. The away kit. You know the away kit?
Yeah.
So, I was sat watching the game in a bar with my Sunderland shirt on. And we all had our shirts on, It's fantastic because there's a lot of people that you walk, like I've got 2 grandkids and one's 5, one's 3. They walk around in their Sunderland kits, right, in Qatar. And my daughter's Sunderland supporter, so it's brilliant.
Yeah, but obviously that the white one that we walked out to Wembley with under you, that's obviously the away strip, and David Bruce as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, he came straight in and went, right, we're going back to 92.
I know he said to me, did I have a tracksuit? And I was like, I think I've got one, but I'm not sure where. And I've got an atlet which is about 80 foot long. And you don't want to go in there, you know what I mean? It's scary. I could not find it. So anyway, he did dig one out eventually, but yeah, the Hummel gear is quite nice, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But that kit, I used to like. I remember they did toss the coin. Somebody with the FA tossed the coin
Yeah.
to see who had the home kit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, we're not going to win that, are we? Liverpool are going to win that. Oh, Liverpool. And I was like, that bloody white kit, I don't think we've won a game in it, have we?
Yeah.
But little things like that, you know, you're like.
It's funny because, I mean, they brought it back and I thought, you know, being an age when I can remember it, it's a nice kit, but I thought we didn't actually win much in that kit.
No, we didn't. And like, why would you have it again? You're right. You're right. You shouldn't have something that you're being unsuccessful with. So,
Anyway, we better stop talking. I think we're doing them out of a few quid again. If they're not going to sell us money.
Hummel's good. Hummel's good. We like Hummel.
It's brilliant. Good throwback. Brilliant. Well, you mentioned you got up for dinners and a couple of games, but do you get up very often, even if it's for a pint or whatever?
I did a talk in before the Coventry game. It was it was a good laugh. Yeah, for the Deaf Society supporters.
Yep.
And that went really well. That was good. Bawley was there, Gordon Armstrong, and myself. And it was just not far from the ground in a bar. And we had a really good night. Do you know Joanne? I'm trying to think of her surname.
Yeah, Youngson.
Joanne does the
supporters.
Yeah, like the people who pass away, bereavement.
Yes, yeah.
She's brilliant. She keeps in touch with me. Then when I was at the Coventry game after, I went in the bar. My God, it was like a nightclub. The atmosphere in the bar was incredible. It was brilliant. And one of the ladies, I can't think of her name, she does the old supporters, and she does a talk in every month. Gets somebody in. So she wants me to come and do a talk.
Brilliant.
I won't be able to do it when I go to Arbroath because it's like I'm off on the Saturday morning to Arbroath. And also Jimmy Montgomery would like me to go and do a talk before game. So I'm going to definitely get them in before the end of the season, I think. Try and do it.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, I'm definitely going to look out for those.
I'll let you know. I'll tell you if I'm going. Yeah.
Good stuff. Brilliant. Well, I mean, it just leaves us to say thank you so much. I mean, I appreciate your time, and it's been absolutely fascinating. I could talk for hours, if I'm honest, about all this sort of stuff.
Well, I'm the same, as you can guess. You're getting a bit bored of me now because I do talk a lot.
Well, I've missed loads of stuff out that I wanted to ask you, but we've got on. I didn't want to take up too much of your time.
Ask me whatever you want to ask.
Well, it's been absolutely brilliant. Well, no, I'll ask you at the talk-ins when we get up there, I think.
Yeah, no problem. I'm just pleased I got on because I'm not that great with a laptop.
Well, I'm exactly the same, so we've done all right.
All right.
Brilliant.
Great
really appreciate it.
Take care now.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot.
Cheers. Bye.
Cheers. Thanks, Malcolm.
I know.
It's been absolutely fantastic. And thank you everyone for listening. Hopefully we'll be back with more interviews and all that sort of stuff during the international break. So keep a lookout in all the usual places for our next pod drop-in. Subscribe and like and all that sort of stuff. But from us, bye for now.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.